Hi everybody, Cheaply Chic. Welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Today I'm going to do one more video creating some elements for these two rainbow type journals I'm working on. I'm creating one of them as a gift for someone who is really into bright colors and likes the elements, the type of elements that I'm using in the journal. So at the same time, I can never just create one, so I'm making two. But I have two previous videos working in these journals. If you missed it, one of them was using a type of cellophane sheet that I picked up on Amazon and fell in love with. It's a nice sturdy cellophane made for crafting, and it just makes the most beautiful ruffles. So I created that. I had also created some cellophane journaling cards, just the basic bases of them. So yeah, I'll link that video down below. I had also shared a video creating some altered tags that I was planning on using in the journal that is a gift. So if you'd like to see that video, it will be linked down below as well. And then I created a few more for those of you who are watching along with me. I created a few more off camera when I had a crafty night with a friend over Zoom. And I am in love with these. They're so much fun. Oh, and I have to mention this napkin. I didn't get the napkins in the mail in time to use them for that video I created, but all of these stars and the rainbows and some of these darker lined clouds are all out of a napkin. This cloud, these hearts, I definitely have to show you that napkin. So this is the napkin. I found it rather difficult to find a unicorn party napkin that didn't have just a giant unicorn on it. So I ordered these from Amazon. I'll link it down below. They're a little pricey because you're buying like a pack of 100. So I don't know. If anyone's interested in just a few of them, let me know and I can put them in my Etsy shop if you don't want to buy, you know, a giant bulk like that. I'm never going to use all of that anyway. But anyway, I love this napkin because of all the smaller elements, and I thought it might be a lot of fun, and it was. I haven't used the unicorn yet, but it's a great napkin, and I was super thrilled to find out that the print is on all four sides. So I had a lot of fun with those. These tags, yes, just so much fun. So today I'm going to work on making some clusters that I can use inside my journals to finish it up. I still have not created a design for the cover. I need to do that, and then I need to just start putting the journals together. I do have the signatures sewn in, if there are those of you out there just tuning in, just to give you a glimpse. The journals are very similar. I started some clusters and then I realized I was creating them too early. I don't know. I needed to wait. So yeah, there's one of those cellophane ruffles. I need to finish decorating some of this stuff and definitely fill in the book. But yeah, I'm super happy with it. So yeah, I had done a little bit, you know, of some things in the book, but yes, I want to create some clusters today. I also need to make some tassels for these. So I'm not quite certain yet at this point what direction I'm going to go. I do have some ink stained cheesecloth in pink and green. If I feel that I need to make more of that, I will. I also have a little scrap bag of some crinkled colored seam binding in here. I have tulle. This is cut off of a little girl's dress, but it's super sparkly and pretty. I have some crepe paper if I want to make some ruffles that way, some more pretty sparkly tulle. This is the basket I've been throwing everything in. I have a lot of, well, cellophane scraps from making my ruffles and things. A lot of stars that I cut out of glitter cardstock. There's some clouds and stars in here. This is what I'm most uncertain about because I've never done a journal like this before. It's a little out of my comfort zone, but I grabbed a bunch of colorful fabrics that I had, the scraps that I had. I will surely use some of this in my clusters. And then last but not least, I have another basket here of some trims that I've pulled out and I've been messing with. And then just the fun ephemera pieces that I already had in my stash. Oh, there's some pom-pom trim hiding in there. So we'll see how all of this comes together. I also created a couple of envelopes out of pink paper and then this fun orange vellum that I had. All right, and that is pretty much everything I have out. We'll see what else gets pulled along the way, but let's speed up this video and see what we can come up with. The first thing I typically find myself doing is picking out a patterned fabric that I want to use as the base of my cluster. Or if I decide not to pick my fabric first, then I usually will pick my paper first, whatever it is I want that base layer to be, and then it usually gives me an idea of where to build from there. So here I just really love this fabric and I love the way that it matches the journal. I've used it in the spine of my journal, so I know that I definitely want a few clusters made with this. One of the things that I always love doing is fray the edges of my fabric. I love the texture that it gives to it. It's a lot like ripping the paper and having that torn edge look. Any way that I can incorporate more texture without adding a lot of bulk is always a good thing. And this piece here is fun because it's just a random scrap of fabric that a lot of people would have thrown away. You can tell by the cut lines and things. It's great when you can find a way to use these little bits and scraps in your journaling. Of course, there's a downside to that. It means we save all the little bits and scraps, right? But we have to use, what's the word? Well, we have to be selective. We can't save every little scrap in the world, but it is really fun to be able to use scraps that would typically be thrown away. So here I have a vintage children's dictionary, and I really tried to find some fun words for these clusters since the journal itself is really fun. I've also been using the paper collection by Dear Lizzie called She's Magic. I love the colors and I love the patterns of everything. So I have a lot of paper scraps left and I'm going to pull those out and use them in my clusters. I also have this great tool. I love the green color and I love the flecks of glitter that are in it. So I'm going to play with that, and I also have some fun colored ribbons. Now throughout this video, for the focal point of the cluster, I enjoy using the Dear Lizzie She's Magic ephemera that I had, but I also found that I was reaching for some of the glitter cardstock die cuts that I had cut out on my silhouette. And then a little later on in the video, I also remembered that the whole point and the whole thing I wanted to do was use some of the vintage game tickets that I had. I have these listed in my Etsy shop for anyone who's interested, but I have these vintage game tickets, and there are so many game tickets in this Dear Lizzie collection that I thought it would definitely be more fun to use something authentic. Ah yes, and speaking of them, here they are. They're not just game tickets, I guess I should say. Some of them are like, one of them is a swimming ticket. This one here is like to go to a public pool, I guess. And then I have some that's from an old amusement park. Okay, moving on to the next cluster. Watching this video makes me think about the fact that a lot of times I get asked how I mix colors and patterns together. It's something I don't typically think about that I do, but I've learned through teaching and working with other people that sometimes this doesn't come naturally. So I guess a good school of thought would be patterns can work together if the color family is the same, or if they're colors that go together. I am not an artist in any way. I have not been trained on how to mix colors and patterns. This is just what I really enjoy, and it's what I've always had fun doing. So like the rainbow stripe paper is going to go with polka dots. One of the things I love to do is use polka dots on pretty much anything. If you watch my old planner videos, I have a lot of polka dot washi because it's going to go with other kinds of patterns as well. And that's just something that I've always enjoyed. But a rule of thumb, I guess, would be if it's in the same color family, you might get it to work. So don't be afraid to play around with that. So I was using my sewing machine to attach everything into a cluster, but you definitely don't have to have a sewing machine for this. You can use a stapler, and that also gives a really fun, distinct look. I decided to break out the music paper here. Talking about textures and patterns, one of the things that I love, as most of us do in junk journaling, but I know there's a lot of new people out there, so I want to take the time to explain. So those of you who already know this, forgive me, but textures and prints, music paper is a great one, and it's a great addition to any of your clusters and pages and collages that you do. I'm using a tear ruler that I finally purchased from Amazon. There was a time when those We Are Memory Keepers tear rulers were at Tuesday morning. I hunted in mine. I never found them. So I finally broke down and bought it off Amazon, and I'm really happy that I did. I'll link that down below for anyone who's interested. But here I wanted to have that base of music paper, but I wanted it to be bright and cheery instead of vintage looking. Because of the type of journal I'm using it in. So I decided to take my worn lipstick ink and ink it all up, and that's going to be behind my polka dot fabric. I kept trying to incorporate this crinkled hand-dyed seam binding into these clusters, but for some reason it just wasn't working for me. That color is gorgeous though, and as I'm looking back, I'm like, Lynette, why didn't you ever use it? But I don't know, there was something about the texture that was throwing me off. So again, I choose to reach for that green tool, and I really like that. This heart die cut that I have here, it's just something when I was making the tags originally, which is a previous video. If you missed any of the videos in this series working with this journal, I will list those in the description box down below if you want to check those out. But anyway, this is just something I had punched out with a heart punch. So it was a piece of manila folder and some paper, and I'm just gluing it together, and I'm going to use it as my focal point. I decide to ink up the edges again, and I'm going to attempt to stitch around this heart. I struggle, as you can see looking there at my stitching, to get around those curves. I don't know if it's the tightness, the smallness of those hearts, even though they're not that small in it. But I end up using some more die cuts to cover up that area of my heart and just hide that little mistake. This tool that I decide to use here is actually some tool that was on a little girl's dress. One of the things that I always try to mention, because I didn't think of it for years and I've been crafting for a long time. But don't forget to look at some of the clothes that you might be getting rid of, clothes that don't fit anymore, clothes that maybe your kids outgrew or torn up in some way. A lot of times that material has some really cute elements that we can use in our journaling. And also you'll see here that because that white tool, I felt like it blended into the background too much, I just take my Distress Oxide ink and Worn Lipstick again, and I just ink it all up so it has more of a pink coloring to it, and it'll show up a little better on my page. And one more cluster. I couldn't stop without using this little scrap of fabric that I had. It's literally the only scrap that I have. So yes, one more cluster. I will say that the two clusters that I ended up making for these journals with this sequin trim are probably my favorites. So again, just a reminder to not be afraid to use things that might seem a little too flashy, because it just might be your favorite piece. All right, you guys, and that is it for this video. I'm sure I've taken up enough of your time today. I hope that you enjoyed watching. I hope that you found it a little fun and inspiring. I didn't think about the tickets until last minute. That was the whole thing about it. I wanted to use some of my vintage tickets. If any of you are interested in those, I do have some in my Etsy shop. That link will be in the description box down below. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm sure that I will be back to share a flip through of these journals when they are completed. So keep a lookout for that video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.